Hello, today we are talking about the decline of feudalism in Western Europe. So our essential question is, what events contributed to the decline of feudalism in Western Europe? And our goal is we should be able to compare the three main events or three categories that led to the decline of feudalism. The first event is political change in England. King Henry II, his reforms starting in 1154 to 1189 strengthened the royal court. So that made it so people had to go through a court trial with a judge in order to be tried for a crime or convicted of a crime. He issued the Constitution of Clarendon. He gave more traditional rights to the king. So it took some of the rights away from the church and gave it to the kings or the monarchs. Then we have some developments with King John and the Magna Carta. So he was Henry's youngest son. His reign started in 1199. He had conflicts with the Catholic Church. He overtaxed barons or nobles and arrested his opponents. So he wasn't a very popular king. This led to, in 1215, John was forced by a group of angry nobles to sign the Magna Carta. So the Magna Carta is an agreement between nobles and the monarchs, and this agreement helped to develop common law and traditional rights of nobles and the church. So common law is just the law that has been developed, the precedent that has been set throughout time, and is kind of actively used. They also created habeas corpus, which protected nobles against unjust imprisonment. And English people, even though this was only meant for the upper class nobles and monarchs, the English people used it as an outline for their own rights. And we can see throughout time this document was used for many of the world's most important documents and our most important documents in the United States, things like the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and the Bill of Rights, but also like the UN's Declaration of Human Rights, the rights that all humans should have. So lastly, we have King Edward and Model Parliament. So this is the last kind of step of this political change. He was John's grandson. He reigned starting in 1295. He took a major step toward including more people in government. He called together what was known as a model parliament, and in this model parliament, he included commoners, low-level clergymen, as well as high-ranking church officials and nobles in the decision-making process of the laws and rules of the kingdom. So you can see with all three of these major kings and major political developments, we see that commoners, the common people, have more of a say in government, and they have more protected rights. Rights against undue imprisonment, rights to make decisions for themselves and for the government. The second event that leads to the decline of feudalism is the Black Death. The Black Death was carried from fleas onto rodents. Some of the unsanitary living conditions contributed to the spread of the disease. So the fleas from the rodents were getting into houses, these tightly packed houses with multi-generational families in them, and it spread. Some of the symptoms are a fever, vomiting, fierce cough and sneezing, and egg-sized swelling or bumps called buboes. The bubonic plague had a huge impact in the world. China's population was estimated to be reduced by half from 1200 to 1393. Also, historians estimate 24 million Europeans died of the plague. That's a third of Europe's population. This sped up social changes and economic changes. So feudal lords no longer held most of the power because the power shifted from nobles to common people. And there were three main reasons for that. People needed workers, so peasants could demand better conditions, and they had more influence and power because they were creating the economic boost, right? They were the farmers, the creators. Peasants and serfs also abandoned manors, so they left nobles to fend for themselves. And then lastly, they held peasant revolts. So in France, Flanders, England, Germany, Spain, and Italy, they rose up against their supposedly more powerful masters. The last event that led to the decline of feudalism is the Hundred Years' War. So first the war started in 1337. It was between the English and the French, and during the start of the war, English had many successes. So England won many of the early battles, including the Battle of Crécy. Heavily armored French troops were pitted against lightly armored English troops, and England early in the war was recruiting commoners to join the battle.